Hello and welcome to another episode of Stories from Here. Across the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. lies Arlington National Cemetery. Owned by the U.S. Department of the Army, it is 639 acres and holds 400,000 graves. It's expected to reach maximum capacity of 480,000 occupants by mid-2060. Soldiers who die while on active duty, retired members of the armed forces, and certain veterans and family members are eligible for burial at Arlington National Cemetery. Eligibility for in-ground burial at Arlington National Cemetery is considered the most stringent of all US national cemeteries. With limited time, I didn't have the ability to see much more of this cemetery than I was hoping to, but I got to see key things that I'd wanted to see. Lee Marvin was a star, an actor, one of the most prolific, actually, and celebrated American actors. He was a winner of an Academy Award, a BAFTA, Golden Globe, and he had a distinctive style and husky voice. He first began as a supporting actor doing war characters or villainous roles. I remember him from Cat Ballou, Paint Your Wagon, and The Dirty Dozen. But he's buried here at Arlington National Cemetery because he received the Purple Heart after being wounded on Saipan during World War II, qualifying him for burial at Arlington. He was 63, he made 21 landings in battle zones during the war and was hospitalized for 13 months after being wounded. Another grave I was really pleased to see was that of Audie Murphy. Audie Leon Murphy was an American soldier, actor, songwriter, and rancher or farmer, as we might say it in Australia. He was at one time the most decorated American combat soldier of World War II. He received an unprecedented 28 military combat awards for valor, available from the United States Army, as well as 3 French medals, including the Croix de Guerre and a Belgian award for heroism. He was an incredible actor, and I had seen him in Gunsmoke and in To Hell and Back. A particular feature for me personally of this trip to the cemetery was the Challenger crew. I was living in the Philippines on January 28, 1986, when the Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart barely a minute into its flight, leading to the death of all 7 crew members aboard. It was the first fatal accident involving an American spacecraft in flight. The crew was scheduled to deploy a communications satellite and study Halley's Comet while they were in orbit. The spacecraft disintegrated over the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Cape Canaveral, Florida. The disaster was put down to the failure of 2 O-ring seals in a joint in the Space Shuttle's solid rocket booster. The record low temperatures of the launch reduced the elasticity of the rubber O-rings, reducing their ability to seal the joints. The broken seals caused a breach into the joints shortly after liftoff, which allowed pressurized gas from within to leak and burn through the wall to the adjacent external fuel tank, causing the explosion. Little rubber O-rings that cruelly took the lives of 7 people and caused years of despair and anguish for family, friends, and even school children whose teacher was chosen to be one of the crew. It could even be said it affected nations. For me, no visit to Arlington, and possibly even America, would have been complete without a personal visit to the graveside of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Often referred to by his initials as JFK or by the nickname Jack. He was an American politician who served as the 35th President of the United States from 1961 until his assassination near the end of his third year in office. Kennedy was the youngest person to assume the presidency by election. He took the US economy out of recession through his reforms. He created in 1961 and established a group called the Peace Corps, and today they boast 220,000 American volunteers that represent and keep the peace in 140 countries. Its initiatives include eradicating malaria in Africa and responding to events like the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Through talks with Soviet leader Khrushchev, he averted nuclear war and contributed to the formation of the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. And one of the great things, he worked towards civil rights for African Americans and progress for Latin America. He did a great deal to galvanise people and support and build the country working together. Incredible, and this visit to his grave was truly wonderful. I couldn't quite believe I was surrounded by people who were stone cold silent. There were men who were just in tears. It helped to give me the impact that I had felt just looking at some of those who, like me, came to pay their respects. Whilst Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis is now buried next to JFK, she wasn't when I visited the grave. But just to the left-hand side, a little way off from this graveside, lies the grave of Robert Francis Kennedy, also referred to by his initials RFK, or by the nickname Bobby. He was an American lawyer and politician who served as the 64th United States Attorney General from January 1961 to September 1964, and as a US Senator from New York from January 1965 until his assassination in June of 1968. The months after his brother JFK's death, there were a desperate time for him. He was stooped by grief and spent long periods staring out windows or walking in the Virginia woods. He had presided over the Department of Justice for 44 months. He had emerged as a statesman of the law, improving the lot of many. He learned on May 20 of 1961 that a hostile mob threatened the civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. and about 1,200 of his supporters in Montgomery, Alabama. Kennedy sent 400 federal marshals to protect them. In subsequent racial crises, he used long telephone sessions to work out the strategies of peace officers in the South. He also led a tough and imaginative drive against organised crime. One of his proudest achievements was assembling the evidence that convicted Hoffa. Certainly one of the most sombre and respectful parts of my visit to the National Cemetery was the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. These tomb guards, as they're known, or sentinels, are the highest quality soldier the US can produce, and they are the most elite. Very few are ever chosen to be a part of this unit. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and they operate through rain, through sunshine, through hail, or through snow. It does not stop. I'm your host, Craig Payhoper, and thank you for joining me on another journey that is the Stories from Here.